resistencia contra un sistema que solo me quiere callar.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez.
We're joined now by the Spanish judge Baltasar Garzon, perhaps one of the world's most famous judges. Citing the doctrine of universal jurisdiction, Garzon has used the Spanish courts to investigate cases of torture, war crimes, and other offenses around the world. In 1998, he ordered the arrest of former Chilean dictator Augusto Pinochet, a move that had led to Pinochet's arrest and detention in Britain for 18 months. In 2003, Garzon indicted Osama bin Laden and dozens of other members of al-Qaeda. The indictment led to Europe's biggest trial of alleged al-Qaeda operatives. 18 were eventually found guilty. Garzon also led the case against Argentine ex-naval officer Adolfo Silingo for crimes committed during Argentina's dirty war. Silingo is now serving a 640-year sentence. Garzon attempted to indict 6 high-ranking members of the Bush administration, including former Attorney General Alberto Gonzales, for their role in authorizing torture at Guantanamo and overseas. The case was eventually dropped. We now know, thanks to WikiLeaks, that the Bush administration privately pressured the Spanish government to drop the prosecution.
While Judge Garzon has long been one of the world's most feared judges, he's now facing his own legal battle. 13 months ago, he was indicted for exceeding his authority for launching an investigation into the disappearance of more than 100,000 Spanish civilians at the hands of supporters of General Francisco Franco during the Spanish Civil War. Garzon was suspended as a judge in May 2010 and is facing 3 separate trials. The attack on Judge Garzon has been widely criticized by human rights defenders. Lottie Leicht of Human Rights Watch said, quote, Garzon sought justice for victims of human rights abuses abroad, and now he's being punished for trying to do the same at home. The decision leaves Spain and Europe open to the charge of double standard. Judge Baltasar Garzon is here in New York this week to receive the first Abraham Lincoln Brigade Archives Puffin Foundation Award for Human Rights Activism. He flew in from Spain last night, joins us in the studio today. Welcome to Democracy Now!
Good morning.
And thank you to Tony Geist for translating. Judge Garzon, let's start with the latest news, the assassination of Osama bin Laden. You have condemned this. Why?
Bien, cualquier persona que dirige una organización terrorista como es Al-Qaeda es objetivo de la justicia.
Any person who leads a terrorist organization like Al-Qaeda is obviously a target.
En un Estado de Derecho, la acción de la justicia debe ser prioritaria y cuando puede propiciarse esa acción debe de primar en todo caso.
Under the rule of law, justice should be sought by legal means.
Consecuentemente, por las noticias que tenemos, la detención de Bin Laden podía haber sido una realidad y que él mismo rindiera cuentas ante la justicia norteamericana o de cualquier otro país.
According to the information we have, he could well have been arrested and brought to trial for his crimes.
Yet he was assassinated. Talk about the example you believe this sets.
Resulta evidente que la acción de eliminación de Bin Laden es una acción que es un asesinato. Lo que ocurre es que, de acuerdo con la legislación internacional, pues hay discrepancias en torno a si es legal o no legal por la situación de conflicto norteamericano en la guerra contra el terror. Desde el punto de vista internacional no es la solución correcta.
So, according to international law, the murder or the assassination of bin Laden was not the appropriate solution. Clearly, it's from the information we have, it's an undefined situation given the state of conflict between the United States and Al-Qaeda.
I wanted to ask you about the particular case that you have been now indicted for, specifically overreaching your authority, supposedly, in terms of the investigation into the civilian deaths under the Franco regime. You prosecuted similar cases where amnesties had been declared in Argentina and Chile, and your government had no problem with that. But now when you challenge the amnesty that was supposedly granted to the perpetrators of the Franco atrocities, suddenly the government has problems with your methods?
Ya, esa es la contradicción y la paradoja de una situación en la que España ha sido pionera en la jurisdicción universal.
This is the paradox and the irony of a situation in which Spain has been pioneer in the application of universal jurisdiction.
Y cuando se trata de analizar y de investigar los hechos propios, se niega a hacerlo y se procesa al juez.
Yet when Spain, when it actually comes to investigating the case and the facts of the case in Spain, the country denies access to the facts and puts the judge himself on trial.
Yo creo que es una obligación de todo juez investigar esos hechos y dar protección a las víctimas, verdad, justicia y reparación.
It is the obligation of a judge to investigate the cases and to search for truth, justice, and reparation for the victims of these crimes.
And in terms of the particular powers of a judge in Spain that may differ from what we here in the United States understand as a judge's power, that the judges in Spain have both a sort of prosecutorial as well as a judgment aspect to their responsibilities. Could you explain that?
Yes. Los jueces en España, los jueces de instrucción, son una mezcla de el prosecutor norteamericano y del juez español.
Judges in Spain are a combination of a prosecutor, investigator, and judge.
I wanted to ask you about the WikiLeaks revelations. In Spain, there's a lot of attention of the documents, the U.S. government cables that have come out about U.S. interference with the judiciary in Spain. One of the WikiLeaks cables was signed by Edward Aguirre, who is the President Bush's ambassador to Spain, who met with you. And he was concerned about a number of issues, and the U.S. has been concerned about the case in which you opened against 6 former Bush administration officials, including Attorney General Alberto Gonzales, for torture at Guantanamo. Explain this case and why it has now been dropped.
En España se abrieron 2 procedimientos sobre Guantánamo.
In Spain, opened 2 procedures against in
Uno
Guantanamo
general
case.
respecto de esas 6 personas.
A general case against regarding those 6 people.
Y otro particular por 4 casos de tortura.
And another specific case in 4 cases of torture.
El primero correspondió a un juzgado y el segundo a otro.
They were each in separate courts.
El de 4 casos de tortura es el que ha avanzado, es el que yo adelantaba y está planteado con carácter general por las torturas, aunque sin identificación de personas autores.
The case of the 4 specific cases of torture is in his court, and it's gone forward, although without specific indictments against particular individuals.
Por aplicación del principio de jurisdicción universal, hemos solicitado a Estados Unidos que nos diga si están investigando esos hechos. Y caso de que no contesten, España los investigará.
Under the principle of universal jurisdiction, they have requested that the United States answer whether they are following up, investigating that case or not, and if not, we'll take it to the next step.
Aparentemente son crímenes de tortura, de crímenes contra la humanidad, y por tanto hay obligación de investigarlos y que no queden impunes.
It's quite clear that they're crimes against humanity, cases of torture, and therefore the government is obliged under universal jurisdiction to investigate them.
The ambassador in the document, in the WikiLeaks cable, said you have an anti-American streak. Your response?
No, no. I don't see enemy against the United States. No. I think that is the justice. Only justice is the torture is a universal crimes. It's necessary to investigate only this.
I'd like to ask you to go back to the case of the Franco era. The New York Times, in an editorial in support of you, said recently the real crime in this case are the disappearances, not Mr. Garzon's investigation. It seems, as seems likely, these were crimes against humanity under international law. Spain's 1977 amnesty could not legally absolve them. Interestingly, the charges were brought against you initially by right-wing pro-Franco groups in the country. So, in essence, some claim that the only one to be prosecuted for the crimes of the Franco era are the judge that is trying to investigate the cases. Could you, for Americans who are not familiar with what happened during the Franco era, could you talk a little bit about that?
Esa es la contradicción y la paradoja, que no se quieran investigar los crímenes del franquismo y sí a quien los investiga.
The paradox again is that the government refuses to investigate the crimes against humanity and at the same time is prosecuting the judge who wants to uncover them.
Entre 150.000 y 200.000 personas desaparecieron.
There were between 150,000 and 200,000 people disappeared under the Franco
como
regime.
Población civil.
As part of the civil population.
Esas desapariciones todavía siguen sin determinar dónde está el paradero de las víctimas.
It's still not known where the victims lie buried.
Es un delito permanente y por tanto no puede estar amparado por ninguna amnistía.
It's a permanent crime and therefore cannot be absolved by an amnesty law.
Judge Baltasar Garzon, you have called for the exhumation of 19 unmarked graves. Among them, the one believed to contain the remains of the great poet Federico García Lorca. Why?
Se solicitó la exhumación de la tumba porque los familiares de los demás personas que estaban supuestamente en el mismo lugar así lo solicitaron.
He ordered specifically the exhumation of Lorca's grave because it was requested by the families of the other people who apparently are buried with him.
Y se le pidió al juez del lugar para que lo hiciera.
And the request was made specifically to the judge of Granada, the area where the burial is.
And what do you hope to find?
Al día de hoy, la situación está paralizada porque el juez de Granada planteó el conflicto de jurisdicción conmigo y el Tribunal Supremo ha suspendido también esa decisión.
So the process is paralyzed right now because the judge of the location where Lorca is buried is one of those who objected and brought the case against Garzon.
Y el Tribunal Supremo ha suspendido la decisión. Eso es bastante grave.
And the Supreme Court has suspended his decision to exhume the grave.
So we're going to go to break, but when we come back, we want to talk to Judge Baltasar Garzon about what this means, that he now has been indicted. He has been suspended. He can't practice law right now in Spain, what it means for all of these cases. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. Back in a minute.